Training camp is about to start for the Miami Dolphins and the rest of the NFL, and in today's video, I'm going to break down the biggest camp battles that the Miami Dolphins have. Veterans report to training camp on Tuesday the 22nd, so football is finally here. I've just been so giddy thinking about football. I had a vacation in Italy and football crossed my mind more than I'd like to admit, but starting with the training camp battles, I'm going to start on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think there's much of a competition for the quarterback spot, starting or backup. I think backup will be Zach Wilson, but in terms of running back, RB2 is up for grabs, and I think the battle is honestly a three-way battle between Jalen Wright, Ali Gordon, and Alexander Madison. Now, quite frankly, I think what they're looking for in this role, and maybe there's two different roles within the backup running back job, but I think the biggest one that us fans are looking for is that bruiser in between tackles runner, that if it's third and short, who is getting the football? Who's going to be able to fight for extra yardage? Is it going to be Wright, Gordon, or Madison? I truly think that's what it's going to come down to. The only other role I think is up for grabs is pass protection, because Achane's smaller, obviously phenomenal receiver, but if you want pass pro from the running back spot, they're going to have to look elsewhere. So ultimately what we're looking for running back 2, who's going to do the dirty work, get those extra yards. Obviously Madison has the experience, Wright and Gordon have the young athletic upside. Who's going to win the job? Comment your thoughts down below. I think it's Jalen Wright's to lose. Obviously, he has a year in this system. Hopefully, he's able to obviously learn from last year. He's got phenomenal tools. If he could put it together, they could be a 1A, 1B with him and Achane. The next battle on the offensive side of the ball is for wide receiver 3 between Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and Malik Washington. Now, once again, I don't know if they're necessarily competing against each other. I think both will have roles and get snaps in every game. Because they both provide different skill sets, but who's going to get the bulk of the snaps, I think, is the real competition. And thankfully, I feel really confident about both these players that obviously injuries happen. If Waddle or Tyreek were to go down, I feel confident if both of these guys got a lot of snaps. Now, Nick Westbrook, who we signed in free agency, I really love his skill set for this offense to help balance out the rest of the roster. Obviously, we have a lot of small speedsters, and Nick Westbrook finally provides some size at the position and an absolute dog in the run blocking game, which is something you absolutely need from the receiver position to have the success that we want to have in the run game. So that's why he was such an important signing for us, is that he's going to be able to do some of the dirty work they ask the receivers to do at a high level to help spring some of these runs from being a 5-yard gain to a 50-yard gain. Obviously, it's been highlighted so many times in the San Francisco offense where you see Ayuk running 50 yards down the field, making those key blocks. And it's not for a lack of effort a lot of the times for Tyreek and Waddle, but they're smaller. Nick Westbrook provides a bigger body to be able to help do that dirty work. On top of the fact that he's a good red zone threat. He had a bunch of touchdowns last year, using the size to his advantage, and the Dolphins finally have a size guy at the receiver position. And then Malik Washington fits more of the smaller mold. He's a tough, gritty, kind of gadgety type player. For being a rookie in this very complex offense, he did a tremendous job. You hear how highly Tua and Mike McDaniel talk of him. He did great in all of his opportunities, honestly. Once again, different kind of skill set, but I feel confident with him on the field. He knows what he's doing. He's a tough, gritty football player who is smaller, but he's going to fight for extra yards. I'm not calling him Jarvis Landry, but he's got kind of a similar skill set. He's not an absolute burner, but he can make people miss. He's tough, gritty, and that's kind of how I view Malik Washington. I think both of these guys will see the field, but who's going to win that true wide receiver 3 job? Now, next, onto the tight end position. I am calling this battle the blocking tight end position. I think the Dolphins are going to have 2 jobs, blocking and receiving tight end. I think the receiving tight end is Darren Waller's to lose. We've heard all about the Tanner Conner hype these past few years. It's just never come to fruition. Will it finally? Maybe, but I'm kind of just giving it to Waller, but who knows? In terms of the blocking position, obviously everyone wants to call tight ends one position. They're truly 2. Like, George Kittle and Travis Kelce are different players. They play different positions with what they're asked to do, and the Dolphins have that in their offense. Jonnu Smith was not playing the same position as Julian Hill. So the blocking tight end position, we have Julian Hill, Pharaoh Brown, and Hayden Rucci fighting for that job, in my opinion. I think it's Julian Hill's to lose, but they brought in Pharaoh Brown to compete truly with Julian Hill, and then I think Hayden Rucci is kind of the underdog. You never know what you have in a young player. So like I said, I think Julian Hill's to lose. Pharaoh Brown has a career made from doing the blocking job. And we'll see how he steps up against Julian Hill, who, once again, I established in my previous video, nobody likes Julian Hill because what he's asked to do, he's going to fail a decent bit, and it gets highlighted, and he struggled early on with his penalties, but he improved throughout the year, and he does some incredible things that people don't notice because he does dirty work, and I've seen him put big people on the ground. So I like Julian Hill a lot. The coaching staff does. He's a young player from a small school who's got that dog in him. I know people don't like to give him credit. He's a dog. If he can really fully put it together, that'd be tremendous to see, but I think that's a battle to look out for in training camp. Next up is on the offensive line. I really don't see a clear-cut starting job up for grabs. I think if you look on paper, the Dolphins starters are kind of set. With that said, no team should ever take the approach of these are our 5 starters heading into training camp. Every position is up for grabs, but I think on paper, you kind of have an understanding of who's going to get the starting role. But obviously, as we know, everybody gets injured in the NFL, and I think the battle of backup offensive line is very clear. I think there's 4 players. Usually there's 3 offensive linemen that make that are on game day active, and then 4 or 5 maybe also on the roster. I think there's 4 key players battling to kind of see where they stack in the pecking order. Larry Borum, who they signed in free agency, who struggled in his career as a Bear, but his skill sets definitely correlate to what the Dolphins do on offense. Fan favorite Liam Eichenberg. Keon Smith, who was looking very promising as a left tackle before going down with a torn ACL in training camp last year. And then Andrew Meyer, who made the team last year as an undrafted free agent at the center position. I think he's going to need to expand his ability to play elsewhere if he's going to really kind of take that step that we're looking for as just being a center only as a backup offensive lineman. You need to be able to be versatile, and hopefully Andrew Meyer in year 2 is able to show that growth. So look out for those 4 players really competing, and obviously there might be an undrafted guy that comes out of the woodworks, and the more the merrier. Competition is what you want to see. Now on to the defensive side of the football. So on the defensive side, the first battle is at the interior of the defensive line, with Calais Campbell vacating the starting interior defensive line spot, as well as losing some players in free agency. The Dolphins are returning Zach Sealer and Benito Jones, but they're going to need more. This is a defense that rotates interior defensive line heavily. Long are the days of 80% snaps from Sealer and Wilkins and more of a rotation. Obviously, the Dolphins replenished this room primarily through the draft, drafting Kenneth Grant, Jordan Phillips, and Zeke Biggers. So it's going to be interesting to see who wins these jobs. Once again, it's going to be a rotation, but how does this pecking order look? Who do they trust most? Who's going to get those key third down snaps? I think obviously Kenneth Grant is the fan favorite, the betting favorite to win that job next to Zach Sealer primarily. You have Ben Still, who was here last year, Jordan Phillips, as I mentioned, drafted, Benito Jones and Zeke Biggers mainly competing for that nose tackle job, but we have multiple players in terms of Kenneth Grant and Jordan Phillips who they could play the nose. So there's just a lot of, it's hard to bucket where exactly they're going to play, and I kind of think the scheme prefers that. You heard Schott mention it last year where he was kind of told to align here, but then they're like, we don't care where you align, just do what you're most comfortable with. You just have to be able to do that certain job regardless of where you line up. So the big thing for these interior defensive linemen is if you're going to play 0, if you're going to play 1, 3, you have to be able to stop the run. I'm curious to see how this battle stacks up. Obviously, we expect Kenneth Grant, Benito Jones, and then it's kind of really a battle. Ben Still, Zeke Biggers, Jordan Phillips, who steps up for that third job, but obviously anything can happen in training camp. On to the linebacker job. I honestly didn't think there was much of a competition until I looked at the depth chart and was like, oh yeah, like Tyrell Dodson versus Willie Gay starting next to Jordan Brooks is going to be a legit job. Who is going to win that job? Willie Gay, obviously a former Chief and Saint, athletic freak, Super Bowl champion, like he's a dog. Tyrell Dodson, familiarity within this scheme, and did a great job in his snaps last year for the Miami Dolphins, has scheme experience. So how's that battle going to look to win that job next to Jordan Brooks? And then obviously whoever loses, it's great to have that kind of depth. And then they also signed KJ Britt from the Bucs, who's our early down run stopper, similar to the role Anthony Walker had last year. So this linebacker room for the Dolphins is honestly a strength in my opinion. You have two dudes competing for the starting job that I think are both quality players that could be starters on other teams. And then, like I said, the other one will be depth, and the other one you have KJ Britt as an early down run stopper. So this is honestly the position I'm most excited to see who wins. Now to the position that has the most unknown. We've honestly, the highlight of all Dolphins fans talking about this current state of the roster is the cornerback spot, where there's one clear starter in Kader Kohu and then a bunch of unknown, relying on a bunch of young talent. Like I said, training camp starts in 3 days, and there's still not a veteran that's been signed. And it's once again, it's going to come down to Cam Smith, Ethan Bonner, Storm Duck, Isaiah Johnson, or Jason Marshall, unless somebody, once again, just comes completely out of the woodworks. The Dolphins have had a history. Now, is it Josh Boyer's credit or just in general of being able to find good undrafted free agent corners? So who knows if somebody comes out of the woodworks, but obviously I think between these 5 names, 2 are going to emerge as starters. Who's it going to be? Once again, this is going to be, I lied. I said linebacker was my most excited about. It's obviously this position, especially going up against our wide receiver group, which is filled with studs, Tyreek, Waddle. Like, these guys are going to get tested day in, day out. Who's going to be the most resilient? They're all going to get beat. We all see the training camp plays of Tua being able to drop a dime to Tyreek or Waddle against corners. And Mike McDaniel does a tremendous job of noting that. Like, every corner in the NFL is going to get beat. I've seen Jalen Ramsey get cooked. How do they respond? And that's going to be big to see how they step up. Cam Smith, who in his 2 years has just been hearing how bad or lack of durability he's had, and it's true, but how does he rise to the occasion? How does he show up in training camp? Ethan Bonner, he's, once again, been given a lot of credit, but has been given zero opportunity. Is he finally going to be able to take advantage of the opportunity presented in front of him? Storm Duck had limited snaps last year, UDFA that made the roster. Is he continuing to keep that dog mindset, continue to grow and develop, understand his job in this scheme? If so, he can definitely win this job. Isaiah Johnson was another undrafted guy last year who made noise in camp, didn't make the roster, but a long cornerback who can fight for the roster. And then Jason Marshall, once again, talented guy out of college, long, lengthy corner, but he has to put it all together. So the Dolphins have a lot of youth and a lot of talent, but who is able to put it together, and who can the Dolphins rely upon to start at a very important position in the NFL? Once again, the Dolphins are hoping at least to be able to rely upon this defensive line to be able to get after quarterbacks. But if not, who's going to be able to hold up in coverage? We're almost done. Onto the safety position. I think the Dolphins have their starting safeties in Minkah Fitzpatrick and Ife Melifonwu, but obviously Ife does struggle with injuries, as well as the fact that this Dolphins scheme, especially with our cornerback position, the Dolphins like to run a lot of big nickel under Anthony Weaver, which is 3 safeties on the field. So who's going to win this third safety job? I think it's down to, honestly, 4 names. Patrick McMorris, Ashton Davis, Dante Trader, Elijah Campbell. Now, Elijah Campbell has been along the Dolphins for a long time, and he's never really won a starting job. He's seen the field specifically last year and didn't do a bad job. He's a special teams dog. I don't expect him to win this third safety job, but like I said, he did a decent job last year in his availability. Dante Trader, who they just drafted out of Maryland. Once again, I wouldn't say he's the betting favorite to win this job, but a draft pick nonetheless. I think this real battle comes down to Patrick McMorris, Ashton Davis. Patrick McMorris made the roster last year. I don't think it was a given. The coaching staff seemed to love him. He got injured, so missed a lot of the early part of the season. Didn't get much run with the team at all. But someone that you can kind of tell, like when you hear coaches speak about people, that they have belief in this player. So I think it's going to come down to Patrick McMorris, Ashton Davis, obviously formerly the Jets, who very good athletic player, made a lot of splash plays, but never got a starting job with the Jets, which like a lot of people are kind of like, oh, Ashton Davis prior to the Minkah trade was going to be our starting safety. I'm like, I don't know. He's never been a starter. I don't think it's that much of a shoo-in, but I guess based on the investment the Dolphins made in him in free agency kind of led people to believe that. But I think the real battle is going to be McMorris versus Davis, but obviously anybody can step up to win that job. And then the last position, everybody's favorite position in football, the punter position. Dolphins have 2 starting caliber punters on their roster, Jake Bailey, Ryan Stonehouse. Ryan Stonehouse was an absolute unit for the Titans. He's struggled to stay healthy. And then I think a thing people like to forget about the punter position is it's not just about how you can punt, but holding plays a big role into it. Jason Sanders has a lot of comfortability with Jake Bailey, so who knows how much of a factor that will play. I think if it's purely based on the ability to punt, Ryan Stonehouse will win. But like we've mentioned, Ryan Stonehouse has also struggled to stay healthy. So that is the video. Comment down below, which camp battle are you most excited to watch? For me, it's going to be corners, but I love that linebacker group. It's pretty stacked. But I'm very excited to see which cornerbacks step up, which undrafted free agent might emerge out of nowhere. So comment down below which position you're most excited to see. Like and subscribe to help the channel grow. And until next time, fins up.